Hello everyone and welcome to my channel where I talk about comic books. My name is Kay Chamberlain and this week I'm going to be continuing my deep dive into Friday the 13th comic books with the Jason X special and the Jason vs. Jason X miniseries. If you don't know what Jason X is, it is the 10th Friday the 13th movie that's all about Jason Voorhees ending up in the far future on a spaceship where havoc ensues. He starts killing everybody on the spaceship. It's a Friday the 13th movie but in space. If you haven't seen it, I'd highly recommend watching it. It's a lot of fun. It's full of cheesy dialogue and a ton of gore. It's just a really good Friday the 13th film in my opinion. It's one of my favorites. At a certain point in the movie, Jason gets destroyed by a robot and then nanobots enter his body and transform him into a cybernetic version of Jason called Uber Jason. So Jason X Special continues on from that, because at the end of the movie, Jason lands on Earth 2, because in Jason X, Earth has become an apocalyptic wasteland, so the remaining survivors left it and were looking for another Earth. So that's where this story picks up. Uber Jason has landed on Earth 2. The Jason X Special is written by Brian Pulido, with art by Sebastian Fiumara, and the Jason vs. Jason X miniseries is written and drawn by Mike Wolfer. These names might be familiar to some of you because Brian Pulido was the writer of Friday the 13th Bloodbath, and the Friday the 13th special, which I covered in the previous video. If you haven't seen that one, I highly recommend checking out. It's a lot of fun. And Mike Wolfer wrote Fear Book and did the art for those other two books I mentioned. So there's a lot of crossover between creative teams of these different books. So now that that's out of the way, let's just get straight into Jason X. The story begins immediately where Jason X left off, with Uber Jason falling into Earth 2's atmosphere and landing into the lake, Crystal Lake. We see a couple. This couple is in the movie at the very end, except now they are characters. One of them's called Brad. He's a scientist. The girl doesn't have a name. She also isn't really a character because she's only interested in one thing, and that's having sex. Because when they see Jason crash land, they don't know that it's a psycho killer. But Brad looks at it and is like, ooh, this could be a scientific discovery. And then the girl reveals that science makes her really horny. And he's like, E equals MC squared. Oh, you know how to talk to a girl, Brad. Did you know that fluoride exposure disrupts the synthesis of collagen and leads to the breakdown of collagen in bone and muscles? Wow, go on. So they start making out and having sex on a tree, and Uber Jason just picks up a tree and throws it at them, crushing them. Scientific facts are not discovered. They are constructed through social processes, starting with labor, a French philosopher. Yes, go on, baby. Then Jason just kind of looks over them and is like, no one has sex on my watch. I hate it because I can't get some. We get some narration of some character who Uber Jason has locked onto. They're talking to someone called Kristen. They're like, Kristen, Uber Jason has sighted me. That's impossible, how? I don't know. Something's coming. Uber Jason picks up the head of Brad and throws it through the window, hitting this guy who is revealed to be a robot. So already things are going from 0 to 10 because we're being introduced to this robot guy whose name we don't even know. But he's just like, Kristen, I failed us. Forgive me. And he puts himself into self-destruct mode as Uber Jason walks up to him. He blows up, sending Uber Jason flying into Crystal Lake Gene Farm. Because apparently just Crystal Lake has been turned into some kind of gene farm. We're introduced to this character named Kristen, who is new to this comic. I had to go back and see if she was a character in Jason X. She's not, she's completely new. But the way they tie this into Jason X is that she's the reason everyone in Jason X died. because Uber Jason ended up on their ship, and Kristen made them think they were going to Earth 2 by redirecting their ship. But what she actually wanted was for them to keep Jason busy. She thought maybe they would destroy him. She didn't mean to kill them all. She feels very guilty about it. Kristen is accompanied by a friend called Michelle. They're both talking about Jason Voorhees, and now they have a plan to stop him once and for all. Kristen needs him for some reason as well. She orders Michelle to send out these things called infantry knights. Uber Jason finds Pamela Voorhees' grave. For some reason, it's also on Earth 2. I'm assuming Kristen put it here in order to lure him in, so that the infantry knights would... so that he'd be where he'd need to be for the infantry knights to get him. So, they all attack him. All of these little cybernetic bugs attack Uber Jason. They overwhelm him, and he is brought to Kristen's lab, where he's hooked up to all sorts of equipment to restrain him. This is where it's revealed that Kristen was responsible for the death of everybody in Jason X. She goes to start experimenting on Jason. She wants to extract some tissue from him. But before she can, Pamela Voorhees begins talking to Uber Jason. Turns out her consciousness is inside the infantry knights that went inside Uber Jason. They're in like his nanobots now. So she's in his head again. They don't really explain it, but she's in his head. She convinces him to break out of his restraints. He grabs his machete and starts breaking out, and Michelle decides that she's going to stay behind and try and stop Jason, and it's revealed that she is a robot. So she opens up her mouth, flamethrower comes out, starts shooting Uber Jason with a flamethrower, which is pretty badass, except it's Uber Jason, so he just cuts right through her and kills Michelle. One of the best parts about this book is I don't have to censor a whole lot, because Jason kills a lot of robots in this, and there's no blood or anything. There is blood later on, but his first load of victims are all just robot soldiers. So as he's chasing Kristen throughout this ship, a bunch of these soldiers show up. They all start shooting at Uber Jason. They don't do anything, and he just starts cutting them up, but they're all robots, so I don't need to censor anything, which is awesome. He breaks his way through the facility. I said it was a ship. It's not a ship. When he gets outside, he finds all these people chilling by Crystal Lake. They see him and they all start screaming and running away because it's some psycho crashing their party. And so Jason starts going around killing all these people, except they're not people. Like, he stabs these two people through the chest, but they are robots. We get a montage of him killing all these people, and then it's revealed that they're actually robots, which really disappoints Pamela Voorhees, because she's telling Jason to kill all these people because they deserve it, but they're all robots. She's like, oh, damn, that sucks. Where's a real person? Oh yeah, that Kristen girl. Go after her. She's real. Let's kill her. Kristen returns to her husband, where it's revealed that he is in a terminal condition. He's really ill. He's gonna die, and the reason she wanted to extract Jason's DNA is so that she could give it to her husband, because Jason Voorhees has healing abilities, and she thinks it'll heal her husband. So she puts it in, because they have a family, apparently. They're trying to raise a family. She just wants to reunite their family and live their lives together. But Uber Jason shows up and tries to ruin things by killing Kristen. You know, he attacks her with his machete and she dodges him. She ends up at a dead end and pretends that she's in a vulnerable state. But then she's like, huh, sucker, hits a button which shuts Jason inside of a escape pod, which then shuttles him off into space. And this upsets Pamela because she says that Kristen is trying to separate the two of them. So maybe, I guess Pamela isn't inside Jason's mind. They don't explain this very well. At first, they make you believe that she is inside Jason's head, but then it's revealed as Kristen's husband gets better thanks to Jason's DNA, that she is now inside the husband, because all of these nanites start coming out of his mouth, forming a blade. So it's assumed that the DNA that she gave her husband had Pamela Voorhees in it, and now she's taken control of her husband. And so he just stabs Kristen and kills her, and then he says, well, it's actually Pamela talking through him, that if she can't be with her son, then Kristen can't be with her husband. And so she forces her husband to slit his own neck, killing him, and the two of them die on the floor together. Yeah, pretty depressing ending for Kristen and her husband. I was not expecting this to end this way, for there to be any kind of nuance to this. And Kristen doesn't live long enough to know that she's also doomed the lives of a lot more people, because when she shot Jason off into that escape pod, the escape pod was sent straight to this ship called the Fun Club. It lands on the ship, and all these people are partying inside. The door starts opening up, and they're like, oh, who's this? What's our secret guest? Door opens up, Uber Jason comes in, slashes a guy's arm off, and begins killing everybody at the party off panel. And that's where the special ends. Pretty straightforward special. A lot less gory than some of the previous Friday the 13th comics I read. Definitely suffers from just being a one-shot. We don't really get to know Kristen and her husband enough to care enough when they both die at the end. Same with characters like Michelle. You know, she's really cool, she's a robot, but she appears in like 2 pages before she dies. Yeah, it's a bummer that it was just a one-shot, because Jason X, the concept of Jason X would really work as its own series of a futuristic Jason living in the future, like a cyborg Jason going around killing people in the future. Like, that just sounds like a really fun series. Jason vs. Jason X begins with the remains of the ship called the Grendel from Jason X. It is currently residing outside the orbit of Earth 2, and on the remains of the ship are not only the corpses of all the people that Jason killed before he became Uber Jason, but also are some of Jason's remains from when he was blown up the first time. So when he got blown up, part of his face got blown off, and then he was fixed by the nanobots, but that half of his face is still remaining on the ship, and we see it dangling from the ceiling. A pirate ship, known as the Pompey, arrives at the Grendel, and its crew decides to go on the Grendel and search for any money or anything worth stealing from the victims on the ship. Because, you know, they're pirates, they're scavengers. Most of them go onto the ship except for one member named Melda. She stays on the Pompey while everybody else goes on the Grendel. The remains of Jason's face fall onto a DNA reconstructing table that just happens to be below him, and landing on it also activates the table. While these pirates are wandering around looking for booty to plunder, the table turns on and uses the corpses of all the people that Jason killed in Jason X to reconstruct a new body for Jason. Meanwhile, at the SS Fun Club, which is where Uber Jason ended up at the end of the Jason X special, we find a couple who are heading off into a part of the ship to make out. The guy that is with this girl puts his hand on her ass and then gets his arm sliced off by Uber Jason, who has interrupted their little session. My arm! The blood from his arm just shoots into his girlfriend's face. It's pretty gross. Pamela Voorhees is still talking to Uber Jason as he grabs this woman's head and rips it off and then throws it on the ground. You are different from them, Jason. That's why they hate you. Mummy loves you, my baby boy, and I'll protect you from them. I'll protect you from all of them. But if I go away someday, I'll show you, sweetie. I'll show you what you'll have to do, so that they never hurt you again. This guy has his arm ripped off, he's just watching his girlfriend's head get ripped off, and then Uber Jason just kind of lets him bleed out to death, as Pamela Voorhees tells Uber Jason the history of Jason Voorhees. which confuses me a little bit, because I guess Uber Jason must have lost memories or something, because it's still Jason Voorhees. He should still have the memories of his past. He's just now a cyborg, but I guess this is retconning the fact that Uber Jason has lost all his memories of being Jason, so Pamela Voorhees has to remind him of these memories, and Uber Jason wants to get rid of these memories, and apparently there is a way for him to do that. There is a way for him to never be hurt by these memories ever again. Now, there's these intercut shots of Uber Jason and regular Jason. So the way I'm thinking is that Uber Jason can sense this other Jason being reanimated, and that they are connected because it's two halves of the same brain. So the memories of Jason Voorhees must reside within this other Jason. And so maybe the way to fix that is if Uber Jason kills this other Jason, then he will lose his memories of dying at Crystal Lake and will finally be at peace. That's my theory as to why all of this goes down in the first place, because it's a little confusing. Back on the Grendel, the pirates continue exploring for booty. While they're exploring, this guy called Casca gets grabbed by Jason from behind. Jason just plunges his fist through his chest and pulls his guts out. They find Casca and they think he's just sleeping, but they turn him over and they see that his guts have been pulled out, and they're like, who did this? That's pretty bad. I think we're in a bit of a situation. This guy named Grunt sees a big hole in the wall and decides to go take a look, and as he takes a look, he gets slashed straight through his chest, drops to the ground, and that's when everybody sees Jason for the first time. They're just like, what is that? So they start unloading their bullets at him, riddling Jason with bullets. But obviously it's Jason Voorhees, so it doesn't do anything. He just throws his machete straight into this guy Quarter, like straight into his head. So Manday, the last person on the Grendel, she's shooting Jason, and Jason's slowly coming towards her. And Melda's just like, Manday, what's going on? Manday, do you read? And as she's calling to Manday, Manday is just getting pulverized by Jason off panel. Blood just spurting all over his mask. This Jason senses Uber Jason, so it seems like there really is a connection between the two of them. At least that's what's being implied. They never outright say it. It's a little confusing, but I think that's what they're implying, is that there is a connection between these two Jasons. They can see each other. And so Jason Voorhees gets onto the Pompeii that Melda is on, as Melda decides to leave the Grendel, not realizing that she has a psychopathic killer on her ship. In order to make this less confusing, I will refer to regular-looking Jason Voorhees as Jason, and Uber Jason, I will refer to him as Uber Jason, so that you can tell who I'm talking about. Jason cuts through some cables in the Pompeii, destroying its landing gears, so that Mendel can't land. So she comes across a ship called the Fun Club, and decides to land there. Oh, the Fun Club. That rings a bell. So she docks the ship at the Fun Club, climbs her way in, greets the guys inside. They all have no names, and she tells them that there's something wrong with her landing gear, and that they need to go down and check it. And so they decide to, and you know that this is just going to end perfectly for them. They go into the landing gear, or they start climbing down the ladder to the landing gear. One of the guys is holding a hook. Jason just grabs the hook off of him, and then rips half the guy's face off with it. It's disgusting, just... So the other guy is just like, what the hell? Get security! Runs over to a button and tries to press it, but as he goes to press it, machete flies straight into his hand, destroying the security button. So this other guy comes over and tries to help him out, but then Jason just walks up behind both of them and crushes their necks with his bare hands. It's insane. I've seen Jason do a lot of things, but normally when he crushes someone's head, he struggles a little. This Jason can just do 2 necks at once with 1 hand each. This isn't even Uber Jason, this is just regular Jason Voorhees. This other guy is trying to get himself through a door. He's trying to open the door. He's like, come on, you piece of shit. Jason comes up behind him, and as the door opens, we see that the guy has already been sliced in half. And Jason just waits for the elevator. It's pretty funny. I like to imagine there's just elevator music playing right now as Jason is in the elevator. Melda wanders through the fun club where she sees the Marco Polo lounge. She opens up the door. Oh wait, the fun club? That's where, Uber Jason's here, and he's slaughtering all of those people that we saw earlier, because this is the same ship. So now Melda is stuck on a ship with two different versions of Jason Voorhees. He turns around and he sees her and obviously goes after her, and as she escapes from the room, she's just like, no! Running into another Jason Voorhees. So now we got Melda stuck in between two Jasons. Can't really think of a situation that's worse than this. Please, just let me go. The two Jasons look at each other, and we see in their eyes, they like know each other, the memories of each other come back, like Jason's childhood memories come back, and it looks like Jason is going to attack Melda, but he's actually attacking Uber Jason. So Melda gets thrown to the side, where she hits the wall, and Jason and Uber Jason begin fighting each other. It's still not confirmed, but I believe the reason they are fighting is because, I guess, Uber Jason believes that if he kills Jason Voorhees, he will lose the memories that he hates, and if Jason kills Uber Jason, then he'll finally be at peace. I don't know, that's my assumption. I think that's what's implied, is that if one kills the other, then they will be at peace. Who knows, I'm sure it'll be explained as we go. It's just a reason for them to get to fight each other. Jason and Uber Jason begin fighting, and they do not hold back. Melda is helpless to watch as these two titans face each other, slashing at each other, just attacking each, like, full on. Like, Uber Jason grabs Jason, smashes him into a wall, and then runs straight through it, just smashing through different parts of the ship. Melda runs away and bumps into a couple who are heading off to the couples spa, but when they enter the couples spa, Jason and Uber Jason are fighting each other in there, and that's when we get one of the more comically hilarious parts of this issue, where Jason and Uber Jason are fighting each other, and they start using the couple as a human shield. So Uber Jason grabs one of them, Jason grabs the other, and while they're attacking each other, they're slashing these two people, killing them, like just cutting them into ribbons. It's pretty funny. Like, they're not even trying to kill these two. These aren't even people to them. These are just ways to fight each other. And the other couples in here are watching this happen, and for whatever reason, they decide not to leave the spa right away. They just sit there in shock, watching as Jason and Uber Jason cut these two people to ribbons while fighting each other. Melda runs up to the security assistant, who we will later learn is named Alice. We don't learn that until the end of the book, but I might as well mention that that's her name right now. Tries to tell Alice that they're all in danger and that they need to call security, and Alice is just like, silly, we don't have security on here. We're all gonna be fine, like, go off and chill. And Melda's just like, like, why is everybody on here such an idiot? The couples try escaping from the spa to get away from Jason and Uber Jason. This one guy tries to grab his girlfriend, but is slashed in half. The other couples are backed into a nearby wall, where Uber Jason accidentally kills them while he's fighting Jason. He just stabs them in the stomach. I don't think he does it on purpose. They're just in the way. Jason socks Uber Jason in the face, so Uber Jason punches him straight back. Uber Jason also punches a electrical box nearby, and it causes the spa to start closing. And there's a woman still in the spa, and so she tries to get out of the spa, and she grabs onto a piece of cloth and starts climbing up it. There's this one guy that gets in the way of Uber Jason. Uber Jason just cuts him in half. These couple get their heads cut off. It's just chaos. As the woman is climbing up the ribbon, she accidentally breaks it off the ceiling and falls straight back into the spa as it's still closing. She tries to get out, but the two doors close on her and she gets cut in half. It's pretty gruesome. But honestly, still pretty tame for this book. Melda finally convinces Alice to call the captain in, who's this guy named Jules. And that's when Jason falls into the room while fighting Uber Jason. And the captain tries to speak to them and just gets stabbed in the face with a machete. Turns out he's just a robot. And then Jason and Uber Jason just continue fighting each other in front of Melda and Alice. Stabbing each other. Uber Jason smashes Jason's head into a wall. So Melda grabs Alice and's like, quick, let's go. And they enter the cockpit. Melda's like, I've never flown one of these ships before, but I guess I'm gonna have to try. So she takes over the ship and starts flying it while Jason and Uber Jason are fighting each other. And then the two of them lock eyes while Pamela Voorhees is talking to them. We have to protect what is ours, Jason. We have to protect each other forever. We'll make a deal. I'll never let anyone take you from me, sweetie, as long as you promise not to let anyone take me from you. Melda crash lands the fun club on Earth, causing Uber Jason and Jason to be sent flying. They break their way out of the ship, which is when Alice introduces herself to Melda. The two head off together to safety, and that's the last time we see them in the book. They're just like, oh, hey, what's your name? My name's Melda. Oh, my name's Alice. Nice to meet you. Alright, let's get the hell out of here. Wall of the ship busts open. Uber Jason and Jason come out, and they start slashing each other. They're both on fire, stabbing each other. Uber Jason knocks Jason back into the wall of the ship. And then he cuts Jason's arm off. He just hacks him in the arm until his arm comes off. And Jason gets his machete and hacks Uber Jason's arm as well. And Uber Jason kicks Jason in the chest. It's just all this back and forth. And then there's a moment where they just stop and they look at each other. They're just like... And then they're like, ah! And they start attacking each other again. They're like, quick breather. Alright, let's go. And they start just clashing machetes again. Uber Jason gets his machete knocked out of his hand, and then he gets stabbed in the stomach by Jason. But then Uber Jason punches Jason through the stomach, and then grabs him from behind and grabs his head, and then he rips Jason's head off. Did you know a young boy drowned? His name was Jason. You see, Jason was my son. And as Pamela Voorhees talks to Uber Jason pulls off Jason's mask, rips off his face, takes out part of his brain, and then just smooshes it into his own brain. And it's like Uber Jason is recovering the memories that he's lost, which are the memories of his mother. What was once torn asunder is now repaired. Ghostly voices are at last joined with ethereal images, and a memory is complete. We'll be together forever, Jason. As long as we love each other, and we have memories of times like this, no one can separate us. Your mummy loved you so much, my baby boy. I know that you love me too, and no matter what, that's the most important thing in the world. And so after that, Uber Jason just goes into the woods. Turns out, all he wanted to do this entire time was be reunited with the memories of his mother. That's what all of this was for. And honestly, I think that's a pretty damn cool way to end this. And a pretty cool reason for two Jason Voorhees to fight each other. You know? The reason to fight each other would be to recover the memories that they're missing. I think the new Jason that was born in the previous issue was a mindless killer who had these memories of his mum but didn't care because he was newly reborn, while Uber Jason is the original Jason who had all these memories and lost them, who knows he has a mum but doesn't have any memories of her, and so he still retains a certain amount of humanity. Like, he's a psychopathic killer, but there is a part of him that still longs to be with his mother and have those memories. So it's one of those ways that you add a little bit of humanity to Jason and make him interesting while still retaining his psychopathic nature, his murderous intent. I just think it's an overall really great, compelling way to have these two characters fight, and that's it for the miniseries. That's Jason versus Jason X. In a fight of who would win, regular Jason or Uber Jason, this comic answers that it would in fact be Uber Jason who would win, and rightfully so. I was expecting this miniseries to just be the two characters fighting each other. I'm glad to see that they tried to do a little bit more with that, make it a little bit more interesting, make the reasons for fighting be more interesting than just these two Jasons fight each other for no reason. The only thing that really suffers from this is, just like Freddy versus Jason, the characters in this all suck. There's nothing interesting about them. In the previous Friday the 13th comics I read, I really enjoyed Violet and Rich and their relationship that was developed throughout the book. Because this was only 2 issues, we didn't get nearly as much time with Melda, so we didn't really get to know her long enough. And then you got Alice, who is barely in this and doesn't really do anything. So, yeah. In terms of characters, it's pretty poor, but the fight between Uber Jason and just Jason is more than enough reason to pick up this book and read it. I highly recommend reading both the Jason X special and Jason vs. Jason X. I just think it's a lot of fun. Not any kind of masterpiece or anything, just a really fun horror comic to read. I hope you enjoyed this week's episode. Next week, we are going to begin reading all of the Wildstorm Friday the 13th books, because DC Comics gained the rights to publish Friday the 13th comics, and they decided to publish them with the Wildstorm print, and they began with a 6-issue miniseries called Friday the 13th, so that is what we are going to be looking at next week. We're going to be looking at the 6th issue miniseries. So I'm looking forward to it, and I hope you are too. I'll see you then. Have a good one.